Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Us Anything AEC panel discussion presented by CAD Microsystems. Everybody wave.
Hello.
Here's our panelists.
Hello.
I'll introduce them here in a second. First, let's talk a little bit about CAD Microsystems. So you probably know us as just the people who sell you some software, but we're also a full service consulting firm. We provide training, help desk, consulting, all related to the design, build, operate industry. We have a team of recognized industry experts. You can see 5 of them here today with me. I won't include myself in that, but those 5 are really good. They're published authors, registered architects, engineers, construction experts, top-rated speakers at multiple conferences. We have a good showing today. So our customers call us when they're frustrated. And today is a good example of that. You might be frustrated with some things with Autodesk products or even Bluebeam, and you want to ask us questions about it today. And that's what we're here for. You know, we take an educational approach to solving customers' challenges, and we're laser focused on helping you achieve your business goals. So let's talk a little bit about who we have on the line today. I'll selfishly start with myself here. So I'm TJ Meehan, Vice President of Technology Solutions at CAD Microsystems. I've been in the industry a while, and I love all kinds of stuff related to design, build, operate, BIM, Revit, even AutoCAD. I may not love Kobe, but I know a lot about Kobe. Facilities management, you name it. It's like that's my wheelhouse. Of course, I also love Lego and Excel spreadsheets and great food, as you can see, because those are the 3 greatest things ever. With me today, I have Jason Kunkel, right? He's our Senior Practice Manager of Architecture and Engineering. He has all kinds of certifications and credentials. He is an expert in Revit and Navisworks. He has extensive experience in IT infrastructure, software deployment, education. He started his life as an architect and moved on to become the IT director for a major architecture firm down in the Richmond area. Top-rated speaker at AU. That's hard to do with 130 speakers and be one of the top 3 or 5, I think they do. He presents at conferences all over the world. Lots of experience in the industry. And I have been escape rooming with him. He's really good. Purvey's with us today. Wave hi, Purvey, please. She's a registered architect. She's our practice manager for architecture. She has also lots of credentials and certifications. Specializes in lots of different stuff, not including Civil 3D Land Desktop and Map 3D solutions. Oh, I apologize. I was one thing behind. There's Purvey. She has lots of credentials. She's a speaker at AU, built, designed DC, ArchX, APTI, 15+ years experience, and newly member of the Autodesk Expert Elite program, which is aptly named, and she is well-deserved with that. Let me get back to Marissa. I showed Marissa before. She's our Civil 3D expert. She also knows a lot about GIS, about all the civil products, and has over 20 years of experience with that. Chris is with us today, sporting the quarantine beard. It's looking good. He also is certified professional, certified instructor for Revit, Autodesk, Bluebeam. He was a top-rated speaker at Built last year, which is great. He's been a speaker multiple years at the Bluebeam conference. He's an expert in both of those things. 10+ years in the industry, was a CAD manager and a BIM manager for many years. And he is our bow tie guy. He has implemented bow tie Tuesdays. It is, of course, Thursday, so we don't get to see that, but he's very good at that stuff. And rounding it out, we have Eden. So Eden is one of our newest members. We spent a lot of time trying to get Eden. She's super smart. She's an expert in help desk, and she manages our program and delivers it to you. She has lots of experience with that, and like me, a lover of dogs, grilling steaks. I'm not really a summer guy, but she is a summer girl. So how's this going to work today? Well, you've seen our panel, and so we have a bunch of questions that were submitted before this started today. But throughout this presentation, you can submit your own questions, and we will answer them. There's a questions panel. I'm going to point this way because it's probably on the right side of your screen. On the GoToWebinar, you should see a panel called questions, and you can type in your questions right in there. And we're going to field those as we go. We have scheduled a half an hour, but we're all flexible here. We can continue long. If the questions keep coming in and people are still attentive, we'll keep going with these. So if we don't get to your question, or if we have a question where we may not have the best panelist on for it, we will follow up with you after this and make sure it gets answered. So keep that in mind. And of course, we're going to record all of this and make it available in the next day or so for everyone to review afterwards. Okay, so why don't we get started? I'm gonna jump right in. I'm gonna start with some of the questions we have, and I'm gonna turn to Purvey first. Hello, Purvey.
All right. Hello.
I will. Let me jump to Purvey's thing here. So one of the questions we had from Jonathan was, do you see this work from home scenario becoming the new norm for some of the AEC firms around our area and around the country?
So I actually really like this question because it comes up a lot, I think, in our industry. And I really think that because of the technology that we have, that I think that this could become part of a new normal. I mean, even just in the job that we do here at CAD as support specialists for the industry, you know, we're used to working remotely. We're used to going to different firms. I mean, my office is my backpack. I have a gigantic laptop. You know, I have all the things I need. And so I think that this kind of gave everyone a kick in the pants in terms of getting to that and being able to do it more nimbly. So I definitely think, I mean, I hope that this has been a good lesson for everyone to kind of learn that, hey, we can be more flexible. We can, you know, have some more humanity and realize that everybody has work lives and home lives, and we can balance it very well by being able to do this all remotely. So.
Excellent. Let's jump into the next one. Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let me find you here. So the question is, do you think this pandemic has created a BIM 360 boom? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I don't want to comment on pandemics and their effects in the industry, of course. But I think BIM 360 has certainly been part of the conversation, kind of laying on what Purvey was just talking about, right? The whole work from home. Every firm we work with has started dipping their toe into, for lack of a better term, cloudifying something in their data. Usually that was with like Microsoft Office 365. But we have seen a ton more conversation around BIM 360, but I think that's just one piece of the whole thing. We've talked to folks about BIM 360. We've had chats about, you know, moving to SharePoint, moving to Dropbox. I've had more Revit server conversations in the last 4 weeks than I have in the last 2 years. And there's course conversations around remote desktop and just virtualizing your whole setup in general. You know, we don't have one favorite answer necessarily. It kind of depends on the individual firm's scenario and what their needs are. We certainly have our least favorite answers. Technology-wise, DWGs and RVT files, and which is mostly what we focus on, of course, are not tricky, but they're a little finicky. So typical file sharing solutions like Dropbox and SharePoint can be problematic. So we try to lean away from those. BIM 360 has been fantastic in terms of BIM 360 design for the Revit files, and they've just it's been out for Civil 3D as well. So, you know, avoiding the P word of pandemic, we have definitely seen way more conversations about BIM 360, but also about just rounding it out in general to make sure it's a more inclusive and holistic approach that tackles everything that people need to get into in their firms.
Very nice. So Jason, I'm going to keep you on the spot, and I'm going to loop Marissa in on this as well for this next question. So in your opinion, is the AEC world predominant workflow moving towards Civil 3D, Revit, and BIM 360?
You want to start,
Jason? Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely on the architecture and engineering side, the walls inside. Revit, I don't know when the turning point was, but that is certainly where we see the majority of the firms work with. If not, they're talking about it. It's what owners and contractors are requiring at this point as well. They're asking for Revit models, and that certainly is kind of the spot where they go, and that's kicking the rest of the design firms up. I don't know if BIM 360 is in the majority of firms. We've got a couple firms that have gone 100% to BIM 360 using in Revit. So I do think that the events of the last 4 weeks are going to be a nudge to get everybody else to look at it more seriously. And it's a really, really solid technology in terms of using Revit files on it.
So now I'll jump in on sort of the Civil 3D side of things. Civil 3D is a little bit more up and coming than Revit, partially because there's a lot of, I know what I'm doing, I understand this product better, and why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's becoming more and more used. It's certainly not like 90%. We still see some people on land desktop, unfortunately, but the general industry, yes, is going the direction of Civil 3D. I mean, we've even got some DOTs, not just the ones that have already converted, but there are other DOTs out there that are looking to, hey, maybe we should do this Civil 3D thing, which is going to make even more people do it. Now, we've also got certain small, cities, local county governments, et cetera, that are starting to require Civil 3D deliverables. So we're starting to see a lot of adoption. It certainly hasn't flooded that market, but it's absolutely the up and coming thing.
Okay, let's change gears a little bit. I'm gonna switch over to Eden here very quickly. So Eden, what are you seeing as the most common help desk tickets that we are getting?
So by far the most common help desk ticket that we get is going to be anything licensing. We have a good amount of installation that follows up after that. I've actually got, I could break up our help desk cases by the percentage if you wanted it. But by far licensing makes up about a quarter of what we handle and what we see come through. And that in that licensing arena is going to be anything that's like a license file request, tracking down activation issues, looking at how to activate, how to set up and configure the network license manager, and a lot of accessing your Autodesk account as well. So any of you folks who might have sent us a question on that, a lot of the times we'll log in, we'll show you the actual Autodesk account, where to grab your software, how to sign in and license and activate it. But that's by far the biggest thing. Few bugs. A lot of BIM 360 is a good rising one, since some folks are talking about that already, and it is a really big conversation now given everything that's going on. We've definitely seen a rise in those. And the other big chunk would be the apps that we develop, like the BIM tools apps and things like that you can now install, and we directly handle the support for that.
Okay, I'm gonna switch over now to Mr. Lindo. So Chris, for you, do you see AutoCAD MEP and the other AutoCAD verticals like AutoCAD architecture being phased out in lieu of Revit?
So actually, that's a really great question. Certainly, over the past 8 or so years, we haven't really seen a whole lot of development in the AutoCAD MEP and AutoCAD architecture space, but it still has, over 2 million users still at any given time. So we're not seeing it go away anytime soon. I do see that those are really great tiers or stepping stones for smaller firms to really get into digitizing their documents and being able to explore what that landscape actually looks like. But certainly Revit has played a significant role in changing that landscape for the design industry in those same 8 years. So BIM-centered modeling, visualization, 3D space coordination, enabling the sharing of data. I see Revit as a great opportunity to expand in even more immersive collaborative environment and data-centered way to design.
Excellent. Okay, Jason, I'm going to throw it back over to you. Let me find your pretty mug here. There we go. So does Autodesk do any beta testing for this software before they release it?
Awesome question. Yes, there is a beta program. Some of the applications are invite only. Some of the applications are open. But to get it, there's probably not much to share here. The URL is feedback.autodesk.com. You have to have an AutoCAD or an Autodesk.com login, which I imagine most people on the call at this point do. But you go there, you create an account, you set up your profile, which basically is just, this is the type of work I do, here's the software I'm interested in, here's what my PC is like. You know, it's this type of processor with this much RAM. And then once you are in there, you're kind of thrown into the pool of applicants based on the different applications. Like I mentioned, some of the programs that you can get in, some of the beta programs are just open. You just go there, you look through a list. I want to join, I want to be part of this program. But others, you will get an invite if an opening opens up in the current pool and they have a need for it. For example, I'm in the Revit beta testing program. I honestly cannot recall when I got in. It's been a few years at this point. I would encourage everybody to hop in, throw your hat in the ring. It's not the place to go offer up new ideas, but it is a fantastic place to go and offer up refinements to additions they are currently making. I mean, I have actively seen real changes happen from month to month as new builds are being pushed out directly from recommendations on people in that forum group. So, you know, sign up, hop on in, and it's like I said, it's a great place to be heard and kind of get your 2 cents in.
Okay, so for this next one, this is a bigger one. This is from Andrew. I think I know which Andrew it is, but this is gonna be for Chris and Purvey. From an architect's perspective, you may want to chime in as well with this. But here's the question we have. So do we have any other options for turning off clearances in linked families? I prefer the clearance lines not be visible in something like course detail, so we could override the link families to show course only. However, right now it seems like we are stuck modifying all of our templates for the Revit linked models. Chris, do you want to show anything for this?
No, I think that this is just it's a common issue that I know a lot of MEP firms have, especially when you don't quite know what you're getting from the architect as far as the background and families go. Right, a door might not actually be labeled as a door for your schedules, or let's say that there's MEP equipment that the architect needs to actually place into their model. Well, they could be using generic models instead of mechanical equipment. These are common issues that people do come across, which is not always conducive to the entire project environment. So to really answer the question, it's more about project execution. That first BIM coordination meeting, a lot of these questions can be asked. How do you create your families? How do you utilize these clearances? Purvey, I would love to get your perspective on clearances from an architect's point of view. But one thing that I do actually would really love to test that just kind of came up in casual conversation today was being able to create a subcategory within your lines to match what the architect has for their subcategory for their clearance line. So if they were to say clearances-arc, maybe we can create a line subcategory in Revit that is clearances-arc. So maybe that's something that we could certainly test on our end.
Yeah, so, and actually along that lines, that's exactly, I mean, what most of my clients do that put clearances in there is they do make a subcategory under whatever the families are, and they just call it clearance. So if it's for, say, a door, it would be in the door. If it's for mechanical equipment, it would be in there. And that way you can just go via the view template and turn them off. And I understand that that is what the question was asking was, is there another way? Some people also set it to not be visible at different detail levels. So again, I think that part of that is just talking with the architect and finding out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what might be the best way to control it. It's really comes down to communication and how it's being done. I don't, it's one of those things where it's very circumstantial. So as Chris said, the earlier you can talk about it, the better it'll be, like most things with BIM.
Yeah, I would say even as a consultant or a just a small even firm, if you're having the conversation about BIM, certainly chime in and say we need to have these coordination meetings and talk about how we're performing this modeling.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you both. Marissa, I'm going to turn to you. I'm actually going to make you a presenter.
Okay.
You get to show your screen.
All right. I'm super excited about that. Okay. And the question is?
So your question is, why are there so many bugs in Civil 3D? And how do I get rid of the German text when I regen my Civil 3D drawings? That's a fun question.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show my screen here real quick. There we go. And let me move those out of the way. You don't need to see us again. Okay, so let me address the first question of why there's so many bugs in Civil 3D, and I do feel your pain there. It turns out that they have a certain number of programs working on this, and it's either you need to fix all these bugs or you need to add all this new stuff. So they sort of have to balance out. Plus, there are so many different ways to use the product and different applications, different combinations of buttons. It's kind of hard to find every little bug before it goes out. In terms of the German thing, and this is actually something that we've seen before, this usually has something to do with an extension that's been installed. So I'm just going to open my desktop app. This is my Autodesk desktop app, and it's actually this one, this DACH extension. This is an extension that pops up in here whether you're in Germany or not. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's an extension, I should install that. Or sometimes if your IT did the installation for you, they're like, oh, I'm supposed to do all the extensions, I'll do that. That doc extension is really only there if you need to work with German design standards. If you don't, you don't need it. And we have seen it cause that issue. So if you are getting that issue, you're going to want to go into your, I don't have it installed for that reason, but if you are getting that issue, you're going to want to go into your add remove programs. It should be there as a separate extension that you can remove, and that should fix your issue with the German text.
Wow, good answers. Okay, I'm going to take this back here, and I'm going to switch over to Eden. So Eden, a question for you. Uh-oh, there we go. Here's a question for you.
Enigma.
Presently use a networking concurrent licensing model. With the new named user model, how's the best approach to address a group of users that only use AutoCAD maybe once a quarter?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially since pretty much everyone is going to be fielded into the named user model eventually. One thing I'll kind of like start talking about the named user program a little bit, but just as an overall disclaimer, the best person to have this conversation with in the long run would be your sales rep, because they're going to be the ones who are aware of how many users you have all at one time and things like that. But when you are using the named user model, you still have the availability of removing users who aren't active users and things of that sort. It's not tied in directly. They don't expire immediately if someone were to leave the company or is just there temporarily, things like that. By far, some of the best benefits of the named user program, we're seeing a lot of that come out right now. in terms of the easiest transition to this work from home sort of environment has been the ability to just log right in, download your software, install it, and activate it right there. There's no floating licenses though, so that definitely poses, you know, a discussion at least to say, okay, how many users are we going to have maximum at one time? How many users are regular? You know, do we need extra licenses, things like that? But you know, at the same time, even though you don't have those floating licenses, in terms of what I know at least about the pricing model and things like that is, at least with the bonus that Autodesk is offering, and even further down the line when it moves just to regular pricing, it's somewhere the average for the price is about double the users for what you actually have for your floating licenses in a multi-user environment anyway. So definitely a good conversation. Have it with your sales rep if you you know, if you do want to bring that question up, and if you don't know who your sales rep is, we can certainly have like Allison or any of our mods reach out to you for that.
Okay, excellent answer. Great advice. I'm going to move over to Jason now. So, Mr. Kunkel, I'm giving you the floor. You are now the presenter. And so your question is, with more users working from home, the need to use SheetSet Manager on BIM 360 docs is very important. When will support for SheetSet Manager on BIM 360 be available?
Unmuting right now. Civil 3D has certainly started better support in BIM 360, and AutoCAD is getting in there. The question about SheetSet Manager was good. We actually did a little research because we weren't positive, so we tested it out. It is still not supported. It is on the roadmap. And when we did some more searching, that brought us down the road to the Autodesk Idea Station. So you can see right here, Autodesk SheetSet Manager in BIM 360. Somebody else had the exact same request, and what they did then is post it to a subset of the Autodesk forums called the Idea Station. This is kind of hand in hand with the betas that I was talking about. Betas is a great place to help refine things they're putting in there. The Idea Station is where you go to tell Autodesk what new features you want in there. So this is just the one page we found for that one topic. If I go up a level to the ideas in general, you can see there's a board for every, virtually every single product. I mean, there's hundreds of products. So, you know, all the products that get used, but you just find the application you want. You can hop in here. It gives you kind of a summary of the most recent ideas that have been posted. You've got your hot ideas, which means other users have been actively voting on those ideas recently. So they think it's a good idea. They give it a thumbs up. They love this idea. They want this in the software. There's top voted, of course. There's latest ideas as well. I know I've posted things here. I know Purvey's posted some things here. I'm assuming Marissa and Chris probably posted some things in the Idea Station as well. And if you monitor some of the software's roadmaps, or some of the recent releases, Revit specifically, I know when they come out with a new version, like 2021 just came out, they will flag in the what's new, what ideas came directly from the Idea Station. So this is a place that Autodesk is monitoring and keeping an eye on.
Very cool. All right, I'm gonna take this back here. Eden, we had a follow-up conversation, follow-up question to what you were just talking about. So I think I'm gonna jump it back over to you. So the question was, would it make sense, is it possible to have a company username email as a common name used that multiple people can access for the software that one time every few weeks?
Let me make sure that I'm unmuted. Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, sorry, I missed the add-on there at the end. There's nothing like really stopping you from doing that. It's possible. I've seen users do it, but I do think it like kind of presents its own unique challenges in that case. You know, for instance, if you do have someone who logs in one area and the other, you're going to run into some weird license interruptions and things like that. I think my answer would still be to, you know, check in, touch base with the actual person who's managing your account and make sure that there's no license violations and things like that with doing it that way. But I've certainly seen folks who have a common username. It's tougher to manage, but yeah, it's possible.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to switch it over to Mr. Lindo again. Chris, I'm actually going to make you a presenter because I think you have stuff to show here. And while you're getting ready there, I'll ask the question. So the question is, we've seen problems with our modeling phase filter names that do not match the linked Revit model phase filter names. Are there any solutions we can use to quickly match our phase filter names to a Revit link? We use out-of-the-box naming in our projects. We've had some clients that are using different naming conventions, and this causes problems with phasing in Revit.
So that's a great question, especially when it comes to phasing. And this is something that I see a lot of when it comes to our MEP firms. So certainly just to also keep everyone in the loop of what we're actually really talking about, right? Manage over here into phases, right? So when we go into phases, there are ways that we can manage our phases. Now, certainly we can go through phase mapping, but really what that does is that just matches our phases here that we have, right? Our project phases from existing and new construction to maybe phase 1, area A, phase 2, area B, so on and so forth, right? But really the question is more about these phase filters. Now, when you're phase mapping, okay, or mapping your phases, these don't change, okay? Unfortunately, these stay hard-coded inside Revit, right? So we have show complete, show demo, plus new, show new, and these are our defaults. Now, what you can do, and what I usually suggest is, again, is going back to that whole idea of having that conversation early on. What kind of phase filters do you use? Are you using the ones that are inside Revit as default, or are you actually using ones that you've created yourself? Now, if that is true, where they're creating the ones that they've are using themselves, or using the ones that they've created themselves, then what I would say is that you can use a view that they've created themselves, right? So if I'm in this view and I want to see a particular phase, I could certainly go to VG overrides, right? Go to my Revit links, right? And go to by host view and change that to by linked view. This is where I can now see all the links that they have, or the views that they have set up in that link. So if I see that link with that customized level of phase filtering that they have, okay, I can actually use that as my background. So that's my tip for you as far as that goes. This is where you can start to use it, what they've created, but certainly have that conversation early on.
Chris, we had somebody respond with the way that they handle this. I thought it'd be important to talk about. So Jason responded, not our Jason, a different Jason. He responded by saying, oh, it just disappeared. I apologize. It was there.
Hi, sorry, I did that. So it said, I would suggest for the phasing names and phase filters is to verify these before the project is linked in and change them in your project to match. And when you link in, everything will display properly. Yep,
certainly. So that it goes right back to that early BIM conversation, and that's really important, especially for the MEP guys. And even if it's just blown over, really come up with a template of these questions. They might have heard them 1,000 times, or it might be already in the BIM requirements document. But it's also important to have that conversation so that you guys know exactly where you're coming from. And that's the idea of BIM, right? It's about data, but it's also understanding that it's a collaborative and coordinated environment.
Excellent. So Marissa, I'm going to turn to you. This is one of the new questions. We've moved on. All of our questions that came in before this, we've gone through as much as we can. And so now we're fielding questions live as we go. So one of the questions that came in was, have you seen your Civil 3D users adopting BIM 360? And if so, is it to work from home internally or to collaborate with disciplines outside their organization? What's your take on that?
So the answer is not quite yet. And part of the things that was holding back a lot of my customers was the fact that up until 2020.2, we did not have the ability to do data shortcuts. And there were so many projects and so many companies that were like, I can't do this if I can't use the data shortcuts, because that really allows them what they need. in terms of being able to allow multiple people to work on the same project at once. Now that that is there, the companies that are on the newer versions, the companies that are even thinking of moving to 2021, are sort of in the early stages of talking about it. Now that, as far as I can tell, that conversation has been expedited just a bit because of this, but unfortunately, some of these customers are currently held back by the fact that they're not, they're not on the latest and greatest. We've still got 2019 out there, 2018 out there, and it's something that is new. Now we definitely do have people using it now that we have this new functionality, but it's still working its way up.
Yep, I would agree. It has some room to grow, certainly, but I will say that and reiterate that there are many people working on BIM 360 every day, hundreds of people. So we are seeing improvements constantly. I mean, week by week, changes are happening and things are getting updated. And so you just never know how quickly they can get to some of these things. But Autodesk has invested $2 billion right now on BIM 360 in the construction cloud. So it's not going away, and it's just going to get better and better for all of us. So Jason, I'm going to throw it over to you, sir. So here's a tough question for you. I'm not going to make it easy today. How do we improve AutoCAD usage across VPN and remote desktop? We've seen serious lag issues when using AutoCAD across remote desktop.
Okay, yep, so the answer is very patiently. There unfortunately is not one magic bullet to resolve performance for AutoCAD. One of AutoCAD's great features is that it's kind of, it hasn't updated, it's been just added to over the years. So you've got all the old features. One of its drawbacks is that's just simply been added to over the years. So it has been built for I'm sitting here at my computer graphics update and interface. We have certainly seen folks get really good performance over remote desktop. It's never going to be exactly like you are sitting at your desk. I would recommend spending some quality time under options on your display tab. Under the system tab, there's the graphics button there, graphics performance on there, and it's unfortunately a little tedious, but it's just kind of a matter of turning this on, restarting AutoCAD, seeing if it works better. Turning this off, restarting AutoCAD and see if it works better. Always patch your windows. Make sure you have the most recent RDP server. There are a couple registry hacks out there. I haven't seen anybody have to actively use them. Usually the tweaking of the graphics settings gets it to a point where it's good enough. But if you kind of Google, you'll find a couple registry tweaks, which, again, messing with registry, it's not something we encourage or dismiss, but it's out there. But yeah, being very deliberate about those AutoCAD settings and going very trial and error one at a time to see turning on which one or turning off which one kind of can help that performance. So not a straight answer, but hopefully an answer you can try and implement.
All right, thank you, Jason. Chris, I'm going to throw it back to you. So this question, and I'm going to make you the presenter too, because you may want to show something here. When using BIM 360 internally for my firm, and they're an MEP firm, what is the best way to push the architectural structural models to BIM 360 and link them into our MEP model?
So yeah, this is another really great and common question that we get with BIM 360 is how do we handle backgrounds and how do we handle other models? So there's a couple of schools of thought when utilizing BIM 360, right? So in talking about the hub, we can truly use it as a team hub where everyone is in the document management hub, being able to see everyone else's sort of design models when they get updated, right? So you certainly can do that where the architect is actually working inside the project files, and when they make an update, they can push out that update to you guys through design collaboration. Now that requires that a design a collaboration part where you're actually able to consume updates when you are bringing in that model. There's another way of doing this where you just basically upload the file as a detached Revit model when it comes in. Say that you need to connect to an FTP site to actually be able to download that architectural Revit model. You can just upload the file here, and then when you're inside Revit, right? When you're actually inside Revit, let me actually dive into that, right? You can come right up here to Insert, Link Revit. Okay, you need desktop connector turned on. Okay, now just for the presentation purposes today, desktop connector likes to actually bring up a lot of updates for me. So I actually turned it off. But when you look in desktop connector, you would actually go to your C drive. You'll actually, sorry, not your C drive. I'm sorry. To go to this PC, you'll actually see your BIM 360 desktop connector as a drive there, and then you'll see your project. That's how you can link that in as well. So when you're linking it in the cloud, everyone has access to it, right? You don't need to have the VPN in to make sure that you have access to your server, right? It's all there in BIM 360. So those are the kind of ways that you can certainly update that background.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Eden, I'm going to turn it over to you here really quick. Bear with me one second. I'm managing the screens here. So Eden, the question for you is about account management. And so this person obviously is like many people frustrated with the Autodesk account management. It can be daunting a little bit, especially as we switch. And they said there are 3 sections: by user, by product, and classic user management. And for them, each one of those different portals shows different numbers of users. Can you help us understand this a little bit better? Do you want me to give you the screen so you can show anything?
No, that's okay. I don't need the screen because, well, long story short, our help desk logins won't show you the same administrative view
Right.
that you have, so there wouldn't be any point to it. But that's okay. But I did actually, when I saw this, I wanted to know if can I share a link to chat? Is that a thing I can do?
Well, I can display the link if you want to send it to me. I can post it.
Yeah.
Or if you
Yeah, I'll
want to show
definitely.
it on your screen, that's fine too.
I can do that. I can do that. Sorry, bear with me. Okay. I'm ready if you want to send that over to me.
You are going to be the presenter. With great power comes great responsibility.
All right. It's on the right screen here. There we go. Cool. So I was going to shoot you this link. Hopefully everyone can see this. This compare user management and classic user management article is a really good one for exactly what you're talking about. Basically, the reason that you will see the different users by different views is going to be because of a few different things. So is it single or multi-user access? Were they purchased at the same time, or are they under different contracts? For instance, in New View, you're looking at those seats by product, they're pooled, where they do not show that way in the classic user management. And then if they're purchased online versus from a reseller or 2 different resellers, things like that, I would highly recommend check out this article because it's going to dive really deep and it's going to show you exactly, what the possibilities are that could lead to this. And it's also going to show you what you're seeing and explain why they might be different. Now, if you add users in the new view, which is that by product or that by user view, versus if you're doing it in classic management, they don't update across platforms like that. So there will automatically be a discrepancy based on where you added that user. And then one thing I would recommend, your seats are pooled. That's definitely one reason you could be seeing that. Check out this article, compare user management and classic user management under the account management section and the Autodesk Knowledge Network. That is a mouthful, and I'm sorry. And then what I would say is if you're still having questions, go ahead and submit a help desk ticket. And for any of the other folks that are out there, I know a lot of the questions that we get might be very account related and specific, because a lot of the ones I'm answering specifically are licensing. So the best thing to do for that is, if you do have those questions about your account, drop us a line. It's helpdesk@cadmicrosystems.com. And then that way we can kind of see and take a look and see if it's something that we can explain, or if it's something maybe like you were saying, you want it consolidated, we can reach out and be the liaison to Autodesk for you and see if we can get that done. Or it, it might just be a matter of saying a contract hasn't switched over, and we don't really have any control over that. That's kind of as Autodesk is rolling out this platform to everyone switching over to new view. It kind of just happens whenever it happens. So in some cases we can't consolidate them, but in some cases we can. And if you just if you hit us up, just phone number or email is fine. Let me stop sharing my screen here. Yeah, I'll forward the link over to TJ too to share to that. It should be.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to Marissa now. We had a question that came in. So Marissa, the question for you is, sorry, bear with me. You'd think even with 5 screens I could manage this, but apparently I can't.
I have 2 and it's tough.
How do I get the command line to stay put in Civil 3D? I use an ARG and can't get it to work via the CUI or editing the ARG script.
That's a very interesting question. I haven't seen that issue before. The only thing I will tell you that the ARG is not something that's constantly being written. If you make changes and then you want to be able to save those changes to an ARG, you then have to re-export. It's not a live link unless you've got some sort of launch that's looking at that file every time and reloading it. And if that's the case, maybe there's an issue there with maybe writing to that ARG. But I have not seen that issue before. If you wouldn't mind, if you could submit a help desk ticket, and then maybe we can take a look at it and see what we can figure out.
Hey, the old guy I think is going to answer here. So I have some experience with this, and Marissa, I think you're right on track that because they are actually launching the product with an ARG, and that ARG was a snapshot in time, it will keep resetting to what that snapshot in time was. They'd actually probably be better not to launch every time with an ARG, or like you said, overwrite their ARG, because the position of the command line is saved in there as part of the workspace. So that might be altogether the problem that's causing it to keep moving. All right, I just had to get my 2 cents in. I feel like I'm
I appreciate that, TJ. Thank you. Yeah.
one of these days. Okay, so next up, Chris. I have one for you, sir. And let me know if you want to share your screen.
Actually, yeah, that would be perfect.
Oh yeah? Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. There you go. You are now the presenter. So the question we had for Chris that came in was, is there an easy way to add multiple users to new BIM 360 project files? Like if you always add all of your architects, for example, without using teams and design collaboration, referring just at project creation.
Certainly. So at project creation, when you actually create the project and spell it out, just what the name is, where it's located, things like that, when you hit next, right, you're now able to activate services. So one thing that we do recommend is actually using an existing project as a template, and you can actually save a project as a template as well. So when you do this, it should bring over a lot of the folder structure that you have in place and some of the admin controls, such as members and things like that. Now, that's one way to kind of go about it. Now, I will say this, that Autodesk actually does have a help or a knowledge post about this, where you can add individual members by just looking them up, or you can actually just import members from an Excel file Okay, so when you do this, you can just import the that Excel file with the with those users already typed up, and then add them in as you need to.
Wonderful, thank you. So the remaining questions we have are kind of follow-ups to that, to what we've covered today. I think that what we are going to do is maybe reach out to those who have added these follow-up questions. We're capturing all of this information so that one of our panelists or somebody else can reach out to you and kind of continue that conversation. Sounds like there's a lot of kind of add-on comments with it in the questions window. We are obviously 20 minutes over what we expected to do. So why don't we just wrap up today, and I'll just move forward. I just want to talk a little bit about how we can help beyond today. So obviously, as a full service consultancy, there are a lot of things we can do to help you guys with how you're dealing with your Autodesk products, your Bluebeam products, your FM Systems products. You know, one of those could be through education. Certainly, we're an authorized training center. We have been for 30 years. We have Autodesk certified instructors. We have a couple instructors who have been top rated both at conferences and as classroom instructors for years. And we can help you build that whole training program that you need. And it might just be small targeted sessions. It might be on demand 24/7. It might be classroom training. It can be remote. It can be face-to-face when we're allowed to do that again. But all of that is available for us. We're also very good at installations and deployments, whether it's the old way with serial numbers, or whether it's the new way with named accounts. We can help you with that, and we can help you get it set up and installed. I think many of you probably have realized that doing installations of Autodesk products is sometimes a little bit beyond what a standard IT department might be able to do. And it needs some expertise in that field. So we often work with IT departments to help them get it installed right, configured right, licensed right. Pilot projects, certainly if you're new to something, like many of us are new to BIM 360 these past few weeks as we're collaborating with people and just want some over-the-shoulder assistance, want somebody to hold your hand and answer questions, we're available for that. Absolutely, we can log right in and help you with it. And then, you know, what is kind of table stakes for us that we do all the time is create content, whether that is templates or families or AutoCAD blocks or any kind of content and the workflows around that content we can develop for all of you. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us. If you want to keep in touch with us, here are a bunch of different ways to do that. Email, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're everywhere and ever present. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We appreciate it. Like I said, this will be recorded. You'll get an email with a link to the recording when it's done. And those of you who have posted questions that we didn't get to today, we're going to follow up with you very soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, panelists, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.